episode of the Jackson Interaction Podcast. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and we are doing episode number 10 of the Jackson Interaction Podcast. Of course, if you know me, if you've followed me, I've been doing podcasts since 2007, from the Cheap Heat radio days to the Wrestling News Center podcast to the Vince Haces All podcast and eventually Cheap Heat TV. Which was a group of us. And then, of course, I started this one a while back, and it's just back to what I started with. Cheap Heat Radio was one-on-one interviews with me and somebody else, and I have fun doing the shows in the past, with Xanders and Scott and Mako and everybody. But I really do enjoy these one-on-one interviews because it's kind of hard to do an interview with a group of people. It's just it's all over the place. So I like doing these one-on-one interviews and, getting to know people, especially, guys on the indie scene who a lot of times the only real chance you get to know them is just the 10 minutes or so they're in the ring. Sometimes it's not even that long, or their promos or what you see on social media. So I feel like, this show serves as a way for some of these guys, be it, independent wrestlers, comedians, we cover both genres here, a chance to get to know these guys and meet them. And so today, let's back up for just a moment. Recently on episode 8, I believe it was, I had Matthew Gibson on here, a.k.a. Adam Worski, a.k.a. Bucky, the referee. And we spent the majority of that show talking about Showstoppin Championship Wrestling. Now, I have never worked for Showstoppin Championship Wrestling, but I've become somewhat associated with it due to some of our watch-alongs and some of these clips. Some of the most, and then some of the guys may not be happy about it, but some of the most viewed clips of Showstoppin Championship Wrestling is from us, where we're doing our watch-alongs and we're commentating over it, for better or worse. So, like I say, I've become associated with them in one way or another. But a young man hit me up recently and said he'd be interested in doing an interview, and he's from Showstoppin Championship Wrestling. As a matter of fact, he's their heavyweight champion. So I told him I'd be glad to talk to him because, those shows are a mixed bag. There's some of the stuff we make fun of pretty hard, and quite frankly, it deserves to be made fun of quite hard. But there are some bright spots on those shows. There are some guys who are talented that are, getting their start in the business, and you got to start somewhere, as they say. And I feel like my guest today is one of those guys, and that's why I wanted to have him on, have a conversation with him, and ask him directly how he feels about the clips we've been putting up and the commentary we've been doing. And because really the only other person I've talked to about it is Matthew Gibson. So right now I'm going to welcome to the show my guest for today. He is the Showstoppin heavyweight champion. He is the young Mamba, Stephan Dunn. Stephan, welcome, sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Mr. Gene. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's a
That's good,
Saturday afternoon. The weather's nice. Although this will come out on Monday, but
Okay.
as we record this, it's a Saturday. And like I said, man, you're the Showstoppin champ, and
Yes,
I
sir.
know there's a lot of people at Showstoppin Wrestling that probably don't like me very well or my associates.
Yeah.
But kudos to you for wanting to do this interview and being one of the very bright spots on that show.
Oh man, I appreciate it, man. It means a lot. I mean, I don't really look at you as a bad person. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not a villain. You're a person who has an outlet, and you put your opinion out. And some may like it, some may not like it. But that's just the aura of our business overall. Comedians, if you think they're funny, you know what I'm saying, you love them. If you don't think they're not funny, then you don't gotta, you know what I'm saying, you don't gotta listen to them folks, man. So I mean, you're gonna have some haters, but most of the time you gotta make them your motivators.
And as I've found in the past, because I mean, we started doing this, online recently, but I mean, for years, I worked for a promoter named Kevin Brannon as a commentator on his shows. And I said the same things about a lot of the same people, quite honestly. I mean, people get on here and people get mad. And there's been a couple of guys that are on TikTok like, you wouldn't say this to their face. Like, I used to sit in a commentary booth and talk about most of these same people, and then I would stand next to them in the dressing room, and they had nothing to say. Even after they had seen the previous shows, they still had nothing to say. I
Oh yeah,
mean, I'm having fun. It's nothing. It's like I told Matthew. It's nothing personal. I don't
yeah,
dislike anybody on these shows. I don't. I mean,
yeah.
I'm having fun, and usually when it's about somebody else, people think it's funny. Then when it comes around to their match, and it's like, hey, that's son of a bitch. That's not. That's not
Yeah,
funny.
man, that's not fair, man. I mean, to some degree, not saying that everybody has a perfect match, but everybody can't put that, I'm saying, the best match. That's what training is for, overall. If you want to do it the right way, go get trained. I'm not knocking anybody who wants to fulfill their dream. There's nothing wrong with that because I'm fulfilling mine right now. But overall, go just get trained the right way so that way people know, like you're legit. Not if you don't want to get made fun of, man, then you put yourself in that situation. Like I'm not finna just go play football and play against some of the best athletes. And I get embarrassed. I can't blame myself for that. So that's a little bit of
We'll work our way back around to show stopping, but let's talk about you're talking about living your
yeah.
dream. So let's talk about when does your fandom of professional wrestling begin? Like when in your mind do you go back to and think that like that's the time where you decided in your mind like, hey, this is something that I'm not just a fan of. This is something I want to do one day.
Oh man, I think it all starts back to like I was everybody is kids. I was like 4 or 5 years old when I finally got into wrestling. But you always have the thought of like, can I do this? Or look at these other sports like basketball, football, because basketball is my first love. So it was that hard choosing of wrestling and basketball at one point, and I didn't really make that decision until I was how to 20. I'm 24 now, so 22. I've been in this for 2 years, so I made a decision. I was 22 years old and started to get trained. Man, I had to find a school, and that's why I started at Spartan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, Spartan Academy. Spartan Academy. I went to Spartan Gaston, Alabama. I went under trainers of Joshua Hagan. And
Hmm.
great man, what I'm saying? Great man to me. He was a great teacher. He gave me the freedom and let me be me. And um, man, I can't. I owe him a lot. Because he took me in and gave me everything that I need to know the right way. He didn't. A lot of guys say they got cheated or oh man, I was just getting taught this. I pay a lot of money and I was just getting taught this in just like 6 months. And it was like, man, he gave me the freedom since day one, off the jump. He figured
Yeah.
he can make something of me and I give him everything. I got nothing bad, but I got nothing but good words to say about Joshua Hagan, man.
Yeah, man, I've known O'Hagan a long time, and it's really tough choosing a trainer in wrestling because for a lot of people it's a money grab. It's
Yeah,
hey, I see this kid that he's got a dream of being a wrestling
yeah,
star. What can I take from him? How much can I get from him?
yeah,
And then cast him aside. So
right.
I've seen a lot of guys come along that O'Hagan's trained, and like I said, he does put in time with you. He
Yeah,
does. Uh, take an interest, in seeing you succeed and seeing you,
yeah.
get involved, not just, hey, let me get this guy's cash and then he's on his own. I don't care what happens from there. So
Yeah, man, real spit, man. That's for real. Like,
it's sad but true, man, because at its root, if you go back through the years, professional wrestling is a carny business and it attracts carny type people.
yeah,
And, the carny
yeah,
mentality is get people's money.
but
That's,
um,
that's why they always call people marks, and they
hey,
look at not just the fans, but people potentially trying to get into the business. They look at you initially as a mark and it's like, how much money, how much can I get out of this person? And
yeah,
then if fight your way through. I mean, even a guy like The Undertaker,
yeah,
his first experience, he got screwed by Buzz Sawyer, got his money stolen from him. And perhaps one of the most famous wrestlers in history
yeah,
got taken by a carny, a well-known guy in professional wrestling. So it happens,
man.
man, to the best of us.
That's crazy, man. I ain't know that. I ain't know the dude that took his money was a famous professional wrestler. I just
Oh
thought
yeah.
that he was just a regular, regular man who was just trying to scam people.
No, man, Buzz Sawyer, look him up, man. Buzz
Oh,
Sawyer wrestled all over the country and
oh wow.
was working in WCW off and on at the time that that this would have happened. So
Oh
it's
wow.
pretty wild. But so who who you did you lock in? I mean, obviously we kind of get an idea. You said you're a basketball fan. I
Yeah, yeah.
think we can kind of figure who your favorite basketball player is. I don't
All
know. I got some speculation,
right.
but
Just a little bit, man.
but who did you really dig as a professional wrestler that really drew you in and made you want to do it?
Man, I'm probably gonna sound what's the word? I'm probably gonna sound corny, but John Cena, man. John Cena. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Just seeing them from the thugonomics, because I didn't, as a kid, I didn't see color, you know what I'm saying? I just see personality, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And if I see John Cena wearing a Laker jersey, I'm like, hey, I relate to that. That's like something that, like, you wearing a Boston jersey? Oh, he wearing a basketball jersey. I like jerseys, you know. Oh, he rapping, you know. I'm like, oh snap, you know. It's certain things that I got attached to the Cena, you know,
yeah,
at an early age. So growing up and seeing the transformation to never give up, you know, and it just, that man played a real inspirational role in my, I say, in my professional wrestling career, you know what I'm saying, and life and too, you know, never give up.
yeah.
That means a lot, you know. Everybody can probably say, oh, I looked up John Cena, but man, I just look at him as like other guy looked at in basketball, Kobe Bryant. You know, I don't want to bring that up, but
Yeah.
you know, Cena is he played a big part in inspiration and motivating me in my life.
See, that's cool to hear because see, I'll be 46 years old next month.
Yeah,
So, so I got involved in professional wrestling in 1997. So the
yeah,
guys that I grew up idolizing was Jerry Lawler and
yeah,
the Four Horsemen and guys like that. And so people in my age group, be it fans or workers or anything else, were really cynical. So, they were the John Cena, his work rate and all this kind of crap, and so they
yeah,
were down on John Cena. And one thing I've talked about a lot, at least amongst my friends, is once you've been in the business for so long, you kind of lose sight of seeing and viewing the business as a fan.
yeah,
You can't help but view it from the inside looking out and all the cynical
yeah,
worldviews that you have on wrestling and wrestlers and all that from that. You can try, but it's hard to
yeah,
lose that. So I always find it interesting to talk with young guys who came up in the Cena era as a
yeah,
fan and see how you viewed him, because most people are like, oh, they kept pushing Cena down everybody's throats, and
mm,
he was getting booed, and yeah, he was getting booed by the 30 and 40-year-old guys like me out in the crowd. But
yeah,
to a young man like you look up to him. This guy's a hero, and that never give up thing actually meant something to you. Just like when I was a kid and Hulk Hogan was saying, say your prayers, eat your vitamins. And we
yeah,
thought that was cool. Because, I mean,
yeah,
people can say what they want now, but guys my age, you were Hulkamaniacs back then. Don't
yeah,
lie.
yeah,
Don't act like you were just a Ric Flair
yeah.
fan. Bull.
Issue,
No.
I am. I'm hoping, man. Hey, I promise you, man. Every time I hear that, every time I hear the song, man. But that, yeah, Hulk. I relate to that. Like a lot of guys who paved the way for guys like Cena. You know what I'm saying? Like even people say, oh, Bret Hart. You know, people who say Bret Hart's their favorite. You know, I can't knock that. You know, but the perception, what you was to get on what you was saying, how looking out, like looking on the inside, like if you watch a WWE match, you like, oh, that dude didn't do that. Oh, he messed up a spot or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
um, I just think we have to. We're not the fans no more. You know, we're not the fans no more. And a lot of people will say at the time. I look back and when people say, "Oh, they shoved John Cena down our throat," you know. At that age, I'm like, why are people booing Cena when
Yeah.
he's doing all these great things? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
how can you boo this man? And I grew up and I'm like, oh, I see why. Oh, I see why. But
Yeah.
it just, you just have to outgrow things, you know.
I used to enjoy. I had been in the business for I don't know 6 or 8 years, and I used to go down to Starkville to a buddy's house and watch the WWF pay per views. This
Yeah,
would have been around I don't know 2002, somewhere in there,
yeah,
2003, and it was all just a bunch of college guys that were just big wrestling fans, and so I liked going and watching with them and seeing how they reacted to things.
yeah,
And I hated going to like parties where it was like mixed, where it was like some indie wrestlers and then fans, because they would ruin it for the fans, because they would
Yeah.
love something and they'd be like, "Oh, that sucked. He missed that spot," or "Oh, he didn't connect," or he would just suck. They would suck all the fun out of it. But it
Man.
really gave you a different perspective, seeing how fans are really reacting to things, and
Oh
what
yeah.
worked and what didn't. And I try to keep that in mind as I went on through the years. But like I say, it's really hard if you remove yourself from it. It's really hard. You get
Yeah.
so cynical. I mean,
Yeah.
right now I fight with myself. Like, I've pretty much removed myself from the business altogether, other than doing
Yeah.
like these podcasts and
Yeah.
whatnot.
I
Just
totally
because I
understand
didn't
that.
I didn't enjoy it. Like, the last
Yeah.
several years that I was involved, I didn't enjoy it, and it wasn't the business's fault.
Yeah.
It's me. It's in my head.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I
but
totally understand that.
you tell me you're 24 years old. I'm sitting there thinking like, oh man, he's so lucky. Like, he hasn't had a chance. He hasn't been ruined by the cynicism and the bitterness and the negativity, because there's so much negativity. And then people are going to say
Yeah.
that's ironic coming from me, because a
Yeah.
lot of people feel that guys like me making fun of things like we do in those comedy bits are
Hmm.
part of that negativity.
Yeah.
But, and maybe there's some truth to that, but I also feel that nowadays, like, a guy, all a guy has to do is have access to a ring and the ability to rent a building, and now they're a wrestling promoter.
Right.
They're just running a show.
Yeah. Most
And
definitely.
you, it's one thing for like green guys, you got to get in the ring, you got to learn how to wrestle, like we were just talking about. You got to get out there
Yeah.
wherever you can and learn how to
Yeah.
wrestle.
Most definitely.
Green promoters, on the other hand, I have an issue with, because like, you are affecting the business for not only the fans, but for young wrestlers, for
Yeah.
everybody. If you go out there and put people in the ring who shouldn't be in the ring, if you do nonsensical things and you kill towns, like, 'cause you can see shows where they start out with a really big crowd, and you see the next
Yeah.
show and it dwindles and it dwindles and it
Yeah.
dwindles.
Hmm.
That's on the promoter. And I
Yeah.
have a big problem with that. So I feel like, okay, if nobody's going to call this out, if nobody's going to sit this promoter down, like, hey man, you need to learn what you're doing. You need to find a mentor that's been in the
Yeah.
business, not some guy that's going to take your money, not some guy that's going to take
Yeah.
advantage of you, but someone who genuinely wants to help you
Yeah.
and show you the right way to do things, not just for your sake, but for the young wrestler's sake, and more importantly, the fans' sake who spend their money. Because I just think about when I look at a show and it starts here and there's 500 people here, and you look 6 months later and there's
Hmm.
50 people there.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
those people that left, are they ever going to go to wrestling again, or did they walk
Hmm.
away going, God, that's what wrestling is? I used to like that. I'm
Hmm.
done with that. Or
Yeah.
that's what independent wrestling is. Okay, I'll go see AEW when they come to town in Huntsville, or I'll go see WWE when they come to Birmingham. But I'm not
Yeah.
messing with that local stuff anymore, because that's terrible. I
Yeah.
mean, those guys weren't even close to hitting each other, and they didn't even look like wrestlers and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
that's why I do it. I don't do it just for the sake of being a prick. I just do it
Yeah.
because I feel like somebody needs to be calling this stuff out. If that makes me
Yeah.
a jerk, hell, so be it. I'm that guy. But
The
at
truth
the
will
same
set you free,
time, I
man.
feel bad when I talk to a guy like you, who's a nice guy, who's just trying. You're 24 years old. You're just getting started in the business.
Yeah.
I get that, man. You got to do it somewhere. But I'm also mad at the promoter who's not doing it the right way, because, like you said earlier, yeah, guys have got to start out. They got to learn. But there's guys on certain shows, perhaps the one we're referring to. I've been watching them have the same bad matches with the same bad people for 12 years.
Oh
Like,
man.
you gotta. It's one thing to learn and grow. It's one thing, we all start out, not
Yeah.
knowing how to do something. Then you get better, you get better, you get better. But to be stagnant and not try to get better, and I think part of that reason is because nobody has told them. So if it takes some asshole on video on YouTube making fun of them to make them sit down and go, hey, maybe I need to get better, or maybe I need
Yeah.
to get out of the way, so I'm not dragging down guys like Stephan Dunn over here.
Yeah.
Then I feel like I'm providing a service.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
sure they don't feel that way, and I don't care how they feel. Because again, if you're 20 something years old and you have a bad match or a string of bad matches, but you're
Mm.
working to get better,
Yeah.
hey, that's part of the process. If you're 40 years old and you've been having bad matches for 20 years and you don't care to get better because you just don't care about the business, then you're a problem, and you need to
Yeah,
either fix that problem or remove yourself. And
yeah.
that's kind of where I am on that. And
Hey, shit, man. Nah, I totally get that, man. Because I mean, nowadays, a lot of I guess it's this new generation, and you try to have like the old formula. You know what I'm saying? You got young guys who want to keep it old school, and you got some old people who probably hip on a new school, but around the new school or whatever. But I guess say with me when you was talking about the positivity and negativity about the business, you know, like so I seen some things, heard some things, you know, and with me, I just try to just keep a good head on my shoulders regardless, you know, because you got people like you say the tribal chief, man. He ain't no telling what people say about him. You got people that love him, you know. And you got some people who think like, oh, Roman should tap into this 5 years ago or like 7 years ago. It's like, well, he wasn't ready then. You know, you can't
right,
knock the process. I mean, who would say that he had 1,000 days back then? You know, so it's just you have to go about things a positive way, regardless about in this business, because the negative people gonna hold you back, man. You know, so regardless, overall, I feel and even with these promoters, I just feel like um and right now I just been to Alabama, you know, and I've been to Tennessee and I've been to Georgia a little bit, but I just feel like overall, like everybody needs to be making money with each other, man. You know what I'm saying? It's so much money that can be made overall with different companies. I don't know if it's beef there. I don't know if it's some animosity, but it's so many, so much money to be made overall. I'm not trying to say, oh, go fish people money, but it's so many fans that's just in Alabama, you know. It's so
yeah,
many fans and so many different shows that can be connecting rather than dragging each other down. You know, if you want to if a dude super kick look ugly and he really wants to do a super kick, why not you just help him with a super kick rather than like that's a trash ass super kick. Don't be doing that super kick no more. You know, just try to help your brothers out, man, and the sisters too. You know, try to help them out the best way they can because this is a like I said, we're not the fans no more. We're supposed to put on a great show for the fans, you know, and make them come back. Not like just be like
yeah,
not them want first time experience, you know, because I know telling how many times every show is somebody first time experience because it's compared to other sports, how many pro wrestling fans are compared to like football, basketball, you know, it's really hard. Like, oh, you like
oh,
wrestling too? You like wrestling too? You know?
oh yeah.
But
There's people that are afraid to admit it. You know, they'll be
yeah,
like, they hear some people talking about, oh wait a minute, y'all like wrestling?
yeah,
I wasn't
right.
gonna tell nobody, but since y'all like it, we'll talk about it. You
Let's
know,
do it, man. What you think about Roman, man? You know. And then I opened up. I'm a professional wrestler. I'm like, you know, really. So I mean,
yeah,
you just gotta keep positive, man. Like, cause it's a lot of negative people out there, you know, and at the end of the day, we're all independent, you know, and people, if you need me, you know what I'm saying, like if you need me on your show, hey, let me know if you need me on your show. You know what I'm saying? If everything is
yeah,
smoothly, me and you seeing eye to eye, and you need me for these dates, and you for sure that you need me, let me know. You know what I'm saying? So that way, because how else am I supposed to get better just at one spot? You know, you got all these different people who left who left the big stage and they're going different places. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going
yeah.
different places. So why can't I do that to help myself be on that type of level? You know what I mean? So that's how I just look at certain things.
If everybody got along and you could shuffle people around and you spend some time over here and they've been
Hmm.
spending time over here and now y'all kind of swap out, it would
Yep.
serve the greater good because people get pigeonholed at one place
Hmm.
because you can't go work for them because if you work for them you can't work for me, and
Yep.
then these two are beefing like you say. I mean, that's I've been saying this for years, like in a wrestling, which is a sport or a
Yeah.
business based on manufactured drama, the biggest amount of drama that's created is mostly behind the scenes and among the promoters.
Yep.
Crap that doesn't draw anybody any money, it doesn't help anybody, it does nothing good. And that's where all the real drama is, not what goes on in the ring. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, some guys have started up a new show in Alabama.
Mm.
and they've ran a couple of shows now. They're trying to do their thing. So this established promoter's been around since the dawn of time, starts smack talking them
Yeah.
online, and he's running miles and miles away from them, but he's some reason he's offended they're having this
Yeah.
show. So he goes and gets a venue right down the road from them, to run a spite show, basically, just to mess with them. Now, that's
Yeah.
on him, but their reaction to
Yeah.
that is to go on Facebook and gripe about it, then go on Facebook and one of the promoters sit in their car and spend over an hour crap talking this other promoter. And basically, they've just spent an hour promoting the fact that this other promoter is doing a show right down the road from their show. Chances are most of their fan base would have never even known that show was happening because they dedicated an hour of their lives to basically promoting that other show. So
Yeah.
again, they didn't start the problem, but the way they reacted to the problem compounded the problem. And you've
Yeah.
built drama. And I know people, because people have talked to me and asked me, like, what do you know about it? Like, I don't know nothing about it. I don't work for either show. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
But they're all talking about, like, oh, well, I'm gonna go on his Facebook and see what they're saying. I'm gonna go on their Facebook. Nobody's talking about, the matches that are happening. Nobody's like, oh man, I
Yeah.
want to see if Orion Bishop beats so and so. They're just
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about, well, I want to see if this promoter's talking crap about the other promoter. What does that do for anybody?
Nobody.
Like,
I mean, nobody no
the the
money.
the the focus is all in all the wrong places, and I wish we could get
Yeah.
away from that. But man, this has been rocking on for longer than I've been involved in this, and I've been involved in wrestling for over 20 years, and it's getting worse every day, and it's
Man.
frustrating. And to hear
Yeah.
a guy who's your age, who's only been in it for 2 years, and you just laid out, hey man, why can't we get along better? Why can't people help each other? You've already figured this stuff out in less than 2 years, but then these guys that have been doing it for 40, they can't figure it out.
Man, I guess it's just the like I said, it's just the fan in me, you know. At the end of
Yeah,
the day, it's like I know I'm a wrestler now, and I can't like mom around my girl, you know. When we watch wrestling together, I can't take the fun out for her. You know what I'm saying? So I
yeah,
have to still keep that fun inside of me, but I can't ruin it for others. You know, if because people, I want people to see me. You know, there's certain things that I do that people are gonna say like shoot, I say easy money. You know, some people may say it's a Rob Van Dam thing, but I look at it as
and we
he's
have,
Rob Van Dam. You know, but
yeah,
I'm Stephan Dunn, and at the end of the day, it's easy money. You know, like I look like there's certain things that cooperate in wrestling that you may see the same. Like we had the triple threat in ECW, you know,
yeah.
but you also had Team 3D, you know. So I mean, there's some things that may look alike, but that's so different in different ways, you know. So I mean, like if certain people would, I mean, people look at it's just a perspective thing. But as fans, you can't take as a wrestler, you can't mess up for the other fans. You know what I'm saying? You can't mess that up, especially for people that's around you or things of that nature, man. Just keep it
And
positive.
it is hard to do because you know, I mean, not all fans are as cynical as some of the, but smart fans, but a lot of them
Yeah,
are. And like now, a lot of people, especially the people inside the business, but even some of the smart fans, like if they sit down to watch, let's say they were watching Night of Champions last week,
yeah,
and
yeah,
in the end, their reaction isn't, well, why did Seth Rollins beat AJ Styles? It was, well, why did they book Seth Rollins to beat AJ? You know what I mean? They look
yeah,
at it,
yeah,
it's no longer a competition. They no longer look at it as like, oh, well, I hope the Lakers beat this other team. It's,
yeah.
why do they book it that way? That's
Hey,
stupid. Well, I would
man,
have done it this way. It's all become a strategy game now instead of taking it for what
yeah.
it is.
Me and my girl was just talking about that. Like, I'll be on Twitter. I'm like, dang, man, it's not even about who won or who lost, or like looking at it like, oh man, like you can't even root no more. You can't even root for your favorite person no more without being
Mm-mm.
like, like they booked it this way, or they could have went about it like, why this storyline had to go on for this long? They could have shortened it, or man, it's just so many things people try to figure out about the business, man. Like, and they don't know. They really don't know. At the end of the day, they think they know, and they don't know. Like they'll come up with this this crazy thing like my girl got a message saying, "Oh, Roman's gonna the spoilers that Roman's gonna lose and retire at WrestleMania to Cody," and I'm like, how does he know that? Like, you know how many people that like you have to like the get through to know something like that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he just all of a sudden just like read something on a website that a Mark put up, and like a little blogger or whatever, just they're putting their opinions on and telling them what they think is going to happen.
Yeah,
Everybody
people
want
will
to be
read
an
that
image
stuff and
nowadays.
just state it as as a fact.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, no more insight than I have. If I went on Facebook right now and posted, like you said, if I just put something ridiculous like, you know, Cody Rhodes is going to run in and beat Seth Rollins next Friday night on SmackDown, there would be a handful of people that just go say, "Hey, Cody Rhodes is going to beat Seth Rollins for the world title on SmackDown." I said, "No, he's not. They're not even wrestling each other." "Oh yeah, it's going to happen. I read it on Facebook." Come on.
like what? Like, come on, man. People come up with these crazy ideas nowadays, man.
But it's not like people aren't like, man, I hope Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn beat Roman and Solo. It's,
Yeah,
I hope they put them over on. I hope they don't put the belts. I hope they don't put the belts on Roman and Solo.
I'm
And
like,
and
why
I
are you
get
worried about it, man?
it's a different mindset now, but like you say, it does kind of take the fun out of it, and I'm guilty of that too. I have to try to kind of force myself to take a step back, like just watch it for what it is. And the great thing,
Yeah,
the thing that's been fun about wrestling, it got for a while where you could just about call everything that was going to happen. You knew, and
yeah,
not from reading spoilers, just from like, okay, well, wrestling logic dictates
yeah,
this is what they're going to do.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think most people expected Roman to walk out of WrestleMania still champion.
Man,
That hurt some feelings. Mine, I ain't gonna lie, I was sitting there like,
yeah. I
ah,
can't. I
okay,
hope. I hope. I got a homeboy. I hope you don't mind me telling this out here, man.
no,
I'm gonna
buddy.
be real. We was I was watching WrestleMania. And I was vlogging myself, right? Me and my family. We were vlogging for WrestleMania, so it could be a good
Mhm.
memory, right?
Yep.
And I had a homeboy that was rooting for Cody Rhodes, and I was going for Roman. And man, like I was talking to my other friend, and when I stopped talking to him and the match was over, I went back to my other friend. I was just talking mess, right? I was like, "Yeah, I told you," and he got so pissed because he was already over it, but it was like I was just putting it in his face, though, right? But like
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, it was about wrestling, and he stopped talking to me for a minute. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, but I mean, we cool now. We cool
Yeah.
now. But I'm saying he stopped talking to me because I was like, I said, bro, it was about wrestling at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like it was something that you wanted to happen that didn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You thought, and like it felt so. You was like, he had to, like Roman has to lose. Like he has to. That's the story. Like look at the promos. Look at this. Look what he's saying. I'm like, man, like something as simple as a run in at WrestleMania on the main event will kill all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's what happened, man. We the ones. That's what happened. But shouts out to Roman.
And I think they've gotten smarter and like they like, okay, people have sort of figured out the formula in the
Yeah,
past, so now we're going to mess with that formula, which is great because
yeah,
by all rights, like you said, if you go, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, Cody's
yeah,
winning the belt. He's got to. And then, like say, when it was over with, and Cody's sitting there looking disgusted, and you're just like, and I mean, I would even. I mean, I'm a fan of Cody Rhodes. I mean, you can see behind
yeah.
me. I went to Chicago. I was at
Oh
All
yeah,
In. Like I was a big fan of AEW and all that
yeah.
starting out. And I mean,
Appreciate
I
that.
wanted to see him win the title, but for me, like the argument I was making is I watched it with friends, that are inside the business for the most part.
Yeah,
It's like I felt they needed to put the belt on him just because it would cement him as a top main event star. That I felt like
yeah,
a lot of WWE fans just saw him as, hey, that's that mid card guy that was Stardust and went off and wrestled for that AEW crap, whatever that is, and now he's
yeah,
back. And somehow he's gotten awesome reactions that you never would have. I mean, he's getting better reactions in WWE when he come back at WrestleMania than what he was getting in his own company at AEW, which is
man.
just mind boggling,
Can I can I just say real quick? that
Yeah.
I told everybody, really all my friends who was uh that watch wrestling. I was like, Cody. I was like, I would love Cody to win, but I feel like it's just too soon. Like, cause what will come after that
Yeah.
necessarily? You know what I'm saying? And like I would love to see him, but it was like I would love him to have like a major run as the main event guy.
Yeah.
Then like you know what I'm saying, but like WrestleMania would have been a perfect spot. I'm not gonna lie. He hugged the baby and everything. I was like, he
Yeah.
finna win. And seeing it, I was still like, like they doing the long run thing. You know, they switching it up. So
In the
that,
end, when you had a couple of days to think about it, like you just said,
yeah,
um, it would have been a year to the day or event to event that he would have walked back in the door and then won the undisputed both titles.
yeah,
And like I said, where do you go from there? Because we've learned in the past, John Cena notwithstanding, but that big chase, like when I was a kid, you wanted to see Sting beat Ric Flair for the belt.
oh
And
yeah,
then he finally did. And you're like, yes. But once he was champion, wasn't that great? His
yeah,
title reign kind of fizzled out, and we put the belt back on Flair, and then we're back where we started. And
yeah,
you can say that about a number of champions over the years, where there was a big build up, and then you get the belt on them. It's like, okay, now what? And that's
man,
probably where we would have been because it's like, all right, Cody wins the belt at WrestleMania. Backlash, what are we doing? Are we doing a rematch with Roman?
yeah,
What are we
yeah,
doing? And I was really skeptical. Like the night after WrestleMania, when they did the thing with Brock, I was like, all right, he didn't
yeah.
beat Roman. He's not like he's going to beat Brock. And if he
Uh,
does, people are going to crap on it because they're going to be like, okay, really? The guy that couldn't win at WrestleMania last night just beat the Beast?
Brock,
Like, what? The way they did it, man, was so smart. The way he
yeah,
slipped that win in at Backlash in that choke and
yeah,
then bring in the broken arm to make the Night of Champions match. I mean, they're booking it really, really smart. I saw the clip from last night, what they
yeah.
did with the Usos and Roman and Solo. I
Oh
mean,
man,
Sami
cinema,
Zayn played a big
cinema.
part of the bloodline angle, but even after you've removed Sammy from it, I mean, it's one of the best stories. I
Oh
mean,
man,
name me a better story they've told in the last 20 years in wrestling. I can't think of one. Not for a long
no,
game like this. Not if you go back to when the bloodline started with Jay and Roman and Paul Heyman
yeah,
to now.
yeah,
It's some of the best long term storytelling they've done in years. And it's
yeah,
clearly not over because now we've got the potential for the Usos against Roman and Solo.
yeah,
The Usos are liable to split at some point. Who knows? Like
man. Oh
it's
man, I can't
it,
even
it,
tell
it
you.
elevated Sammy. I mean, Sami Zayn is such a bigger, WrestleMania year before, he's getting beat by Johnny Knoxville from Jackass in a mousetrap.
Yeah,
Fast forward to 1 year later, people were pretty convinced he might just win the undisputed titles in
yeah,
Montreal. And he didn't, but people would have loved it if he had. I mean, he got the biggest reaction in Montreal since Hogan at WrestleMania, against The Rock.
man. Oh
And then
man,
him and Kevin Owens win the main event of night one of WrestleMania for the tag belts. Like, that doesn't happen without him being in the bloodline. I'm sorry.
man.
I mean,
Nah, nah, nah.
it doesn't happen.
Now, I gotta touch on that giant Knoxville match too, man. Since you spoke on it, that's a good example of a lot of I ain't say a guys in my position that's on the independent scene, because you may have somebody like a giant Knoxville who never done this before. And then you got somebody like Sami Zayn who can probably make the best of it. I mean, and you know what I'm saying? Like, he made the best of it. And he said that was probably like he was so happy about the match because how good it was, and he constructed it, and everything that he did worked, and it made him a better star overall, you know. And so like I think a lot of these I ain't knocking on nobody, but that's just like one of the things of like trying to elevate yourself, you know. And that's exactly what Sammy did. Like he did things out of his comfort zone. Like he joined the bloodline. Like people thought I thought it was gonna be weird, you know,
Yeah.
but it like and I've been a fan of Sammy since I ain't watched him as but he wasn't El Generico. I don't think he was. But back in the PWG days, I didn't
Yeah.
never really watch him until NXT. And when all that came about, like I'm really truly invested into emotionally invested into this dude, and it's just seeing to from those days to the conspiracy days to bloodline days, it's just he's really grown himself, what I'm saying, outgrown certain things and
Mhm.
elevated himself. And that he's somebody who I look at as he motivates me on how just work out my comfort zone, like try to make the best of every opportunity you get.
Him and Kevin Owens both. I mean, I've been a fan of theirs since, Steen and Generico as a tag team in Ring of Honor. And
Yeah,
you had guys like Cornette, who I'm a fan of Cornette. I respect the
yeah.
guy. But you had guys like them that, shit on them back then, like all these guys, they want to do too much of their matches. They don't understand psychology.
Yeah,
They're never going to make it.
yeah.
And then you go to that WrestleMania last year, Kevin Owens, who guys on the indie, like I say, the old vets, oh, he's the fat guy who wrestles in a t-shirt. The fat guy in the t-shirt is in the main event with Stone Cold Steve Austin in Dallas, Texas, in front of the biggest crowds to ever watch a wrestling match.
Man,
Meanwhile, his best friend Sami Zayn is having a match that was way better than it had any right to be
yeah,
with
agree.
a glorified stuntman TV star that actually was good. I mean, because okay,
Yeah,
to the cynical fan, it's like, oh, Sammy job to the jackass guy. But to
yeah,
people who understand wrestling, you're like, that match should not have been that good. And even
yeah,
guys like Cornette, even Cornette's like, I hated it because of the mousetrap and the guys at ringside.
yeah.
But Sami Zayn, you know,
He did the
drug
damn thing.
a halfway reasonable match out of Johnny Knoxville. And
Yeah,
then you fast forward that to a year later, and these guys are winning the tag team titles on night one and getting that huge reaction. And it's like for guys that are in the indies right now, I mean, a guy like you, that's got to be hugely motivating because it's like no
yeah,
matter what anybody says, because if you look at either one, you got the skinny guy in Sammy, you got the fat guy in Kevin, and
yeah,
both those guys were getting knocked. They're like, hey,
yeah,
you guys are talented. You're never going to go to WWE. And if you
yeah,
do go to WWE, you're going to be stuck in NXT. And if you
yeah,
do make it to Raw or SmackDown, you're just going to be
yeah.
in the mid card. It
Right.
doesn't get any bigger than wrestling Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, Austin only
Ooh, man.
agreed to come back based on agreeing to work with only a couple people, and Kevin Owens is one of those people. I can't imagine anything that happens in his career could be any bigger than
Yeah,
that. I mean, Steve Austin's arguably the biggest star that drew the most money outside of The Rock or maybe
yeah.
Hogan ever
Oh
in the
yeah,
history of wrestling. I can't imagine what it
yeah.
was like for him walking down the aisle that night knowing he was fixing to wrestle him in Dallas, in his hometown, more or less. I mean, it's
Man.
crazy.
Yeah, it is motivating though, man. One thing I always take in is less is more. You know what I'm saying? And I learned that one man who actually helped me is who helped me on that is Cabana Mandan, and I shot him out real quick. CMD, he helped me out, and man, I had a tragic day, man. We had a match, and it was like we didn't talk about nothing, but it helped me. That match right there. If I ever get that match out there, or if it ever gets out there, man. That match right there was a great match, and it helped me, and I learned a lot. But to see where my skill was at right then in that match with him, it was like, man, like I'm really doing this. I'm not out here trying to be I don't even want to say a stunt man, but I'm not trying to do too much out here. I'm not thinking
Yeah.
about it too much. It's flowing, what I'm saying? It's more flowing to me now. Like if the more I'm doing it, the more I don't have to really think about it going out there like, oh, I gotta think about this spot or I gotta think about that. It's like, hey, we finna do this right here and this right here, and that's it. So I don't want to get into it like that, but man, it just showed me where I'm at in this business, and I'm trying to, what I'm saying, guys like Sammy and Kevin, like you brought up, like those guys right there really are inspiring and motivating to like independent guys like us,
Yeah.
because not, especially on that top level now, real quick, because they do have a lot of athletes that are coming from football, basketball, college athletes, so a lot of us independent guys, man, we really had to like bust our ass for that. You know, we really have to. So it could and look at guys like that, man.
Yeah, it just shows there's another path you can take. Yeah, you can take
Yeah,
the you're a college professional athlete that gets an easier path into the business. But I mean,
yeah,
those guys they took the long way around, but they certainly
yeah,
got to the tippy top.
yeah,
I mean, Sami Zayn has been one of the most entertaining guys in wrestling for the past year. I mean, like I say, that stuff with people can knock Roman Reigns all they want, but I mean, that guy, just his just his facial reactions to the things that Sammy would do. Some of those segments that they did, like I'll go back and watch those for years because they're just so entertaining.
yeah,
Heyman in the background. And I think the other thing I've mentioned this on podcasts before, but I think another thing the Bloodline angle has done that doesn't get enough attention for years. It was the Usos, the twin sons of Rikishi, Jimmy and Jay, and most people couldn't really even distinguish Jimmy from Jay. They're twins, but like the Bloodline angle, this whole storyline has really defined who Jimmy is, who Jay is, their personalities, that
yeah,
they are two very different people, and it's done a lot to mold them. And there's a time when this thing was first starting, and you kind of had they teased the issues with like Jay and
yeah,
Roman and Jimmy and Roman,
yeah,
and you're like, well, there's no way either one of these guys could really even, possibly ever beat him for the title or be single stars. But after all this, you're like, yeah, either one of those guys could be big single stars.
man.
It's defined them as separate characters unto themselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I always felt like I'm not gonna lie, when everybody thought Cody was gonna win, I said, nah, I think Jay's gonna be the one to beat him. I said this back during War Games. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
I always felt like Jay was gonna be the one to do it. Just cause the person who's gonna beat him they gonna like who else can you put it on? Roman doesn't beat everybody, but the person that has to do it has to be someone close to him, someone who knows him. That's just my prediction. I don't want nobody saying that,
I think I think a very telling line last night as they were walking away right before they went off the air, and Paul Heyman says, "What about Jay?" And Roman turns around and goes, "Jay will fall in line like he always does." You're like, "All right, that's a big statement there." So there's a
yeah,
lot more to come out of this.
yeah, man. Shouts out to them, man.
Very cool.
That's
But I want to touch on something again. Right, a guy you mentioned talking about people that motivate. Cabana Man Dan.
yeah,
Cabana Man Dan, like when I got to Alabama in 2002, one of the first wrestling people that I met over here.
mhm,
Um, and, you looked at Cabana Man Dan back then in 2002, 21 years ago. God, I'm old. Um, he was a small guy, and you thought, okay, he'll wrestle around on these little shows here around in Alabama Center and Gadsden and all that.
yeah,
But size is going to be a detriment. He's not going to be able to do much more than the little local shows. But
yeah,
I mean, man, he's gotten out there. He's traveled all over the country. He's made a name
yeah,
for himself, and he's always been uh, more than willing to help the young guys to go out there and do his best to have good matches and to sit down with guys after the fact,
yeah,
talk about what went well, what didn't, what you could do better.
yeah.
And I think he's that's sometimes an unsung hero of Alabama wrestling. So I'm glad to hear you had a good
Oh,
experience with him and shout him out.
oh yeah, man. He's truly a blessing, man. Like really, because I keep in mind, man. I wasn't growing up as a wrestling fan. I did not know much about the independent scene. Like I didn't
Yeah,
know. I learned about PWG probably when I was like 14 or 15. And so I didn't know nothing about the independent. So when I started wrestling, I started hearing these different names, and Cabana Mandem was one of the big ones. So when I finally
yeah.
got to meet him in training, like I don't know what it was, but like at first I thought that he wasn't real fond of me. I thought he thought I was a cocky person or something like that.
Yeah.
But but he overall like he sat down with me and we just chopped it up a little bit, and he invited me to I think he invited me to Mississippi with him, and I think that's when he figured out I was for real about this. You know, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
like I said, not trying to do too much, or you know, he one thing I know, if he like invited me, I must be doing something right. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of guys who've been in this business, the good ones, you know, if
Yeah.
they tell me something or try, and even like hey Mike Jackson, like you know, say he an old man, he done seen it all. You know, just to tell, like for him to say, hey Stephan, you're doing good, keep it up. You know, that's just like, all right, I'm doing something, I'm moving in the right direction. You know, if I'm getting a reaction out of these people, man, that's all that matters, you know. So like guys like, you know, old man's like not Cabana Man Dan, Mike Jackson, and you know, OGs like Cabana Man Dan, you know, they help me. And
Yeah, I mean, because when they ask you to go on the road with them, I mean, that's a big thing because
yeah,
you show up with somebody, you're vouching for them. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like you roll up with somebody that you brought, and they go in there and they hurt somebody or they stink the joint out. They're gonna be looking at you at the end of the night, going, "What the hell did you bring this guy for?" You know, so
Yeah,
it's a vote of confidence. They're not just asking just anybody to go with them. So yeah, man, and then it's also kind of a test to see how serious somebody is because
yeah,
some people, it's cool to go 10 miles from their house and go play superstar, but then you want to ask them to put in the miles. Like, hey man, you want to go 4 hours to Mississippi? They're like, nah, I'm
yeah.
good. I'm the champion over here next to the house. I don't need to do all that.
Yeah,
So
man.
it's good that you're getting out there. And what's kind of on the horizon? What have you got your eyes on as kind of your next move? What are you kind of aspiring to try to do next?
Man, I really want to get out to either like just keep growing, you know what I'm saying? I just want to keep doing more just try to showcase my skills the best way possible. You know, wherever it comes, like I want to try to get out to the West Coast, see what's out there, you know, go up to the north to like New York, New Jersey type, and I also want to try out Texas too, you know.
Yeah.
Different territories around, you know, people say the territory is making their way back. So, but I'm trying to just work my way around best way possible and get a good name out there, you know, to either bring in the biggest money. If AEW calling or WWE get the calling, you know, that's the goal, but that's not the ultimate goal. You know what I'm saying? Like it's bigger and better things always to come with Stephan Dunn. It's an ongoing thing, you know. So right now, I'm just gonna, you know, keep defending this SCW title, and go to different promotions elsewhere like Tennessee. I'm trying to get it in Georgia. You know, if you
Where
know
did
from
where
Georgia.
did you go in Mississippi?
Uh, I think was it. I don't think it was Jackson. I forget. It was Battle Zone. I think it was, or
Battle
yeah, I think
Zone.
like
Okay.
yeah, Battle Zone.
Well, I know a couple promotions over in Mississippi. I might can steer you towards that's got some TV and whatnot. That might
Okay,
could uh, might could go over there and test your hand there. So
okay, okay.
we'll talk about that off the air. But yeah, man, sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders and you got a good attitude, and that's half the battle right there, man. Don't
Yeah.
And like I say, some people watching this are gonna be like, "Shut up, Gene. This is ironic coming from you because you're the biggest prick we know." Uh, and so maybe I haven't done a good job of it over the years, staying positive. But
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah,
that's the key, man. Is just stay positive. Don't get cynical about it. If you
yeah,
find that you're not having fun,
yeah,
take a step back, figure out what it is about it. I'm not saying quit or walk away, but I'm saying
yeah,
take a step back and go, hey, why am I not having fun? What about this am I not enjoying? And
yeah,
sort that out. Because if you just put your head down and keep forging ahead and it continues to not be fun,
yeah,
it'll affect your attitude. It'll affect how people perceive you because you're going to have an attitude and not realize it. I've been
man.
that guy in the past before as well. And so, and it's really, life moves quick, man. Like
Yeah,
as we're talking here, and I said something about when I met Cabana Man Dan, and I realized,
yeah,
that was 20 years ago. And I
yeah.
remember when I was a dude your age, if anybody could say 20 years ago, I'd be like, man, that dude's old as hell. Like, good God, he's got to be about to die. And like now,
Yeah,
I find myself talking about things all the time that feel like it was yesterday. And I realize, like, holy crap, that was 15 years ago. That was 25 years ago.
yeah,
Like I said, I'm going to be 46 in July.
man.
And
It's a blessing.
there's a lot of times, man, like I feel like if I had stopped, taken a step back, and been like, why do I feel like this right now? Why am I so unhappy? And tried to correct it,
Yeah.
try to maybe remove myself from situations or change course or something that maybe things would have went a little smoother. So for, what any advice for me is worth, that would be some of the, like the biggest thing I could tell you is like, if this stuff ever starts getting fun or not
Yeah.
fun, or you ever start, getting overwhelmed with negativity, remove
Yeah.
yourself from it, or take a step back and be like, hey man, how can I get this to not suck so bad? And
Man, I
because
appreciate that.
for all the negative people out there, there are a lot of people that are positive about it, and
Mm.
it's as much as I hate it sometimes, as much as I gripe about it and shit on it at different times, like it is a good business. It's a fun business.
Yeah.
I've loved it all my life, man. Like,
Hell yeah.
I wasn't I didn't grow up a football, basketball, baseball fan, any of that. I mean, I played baseball when I was a kid and stuff like that, but like from in I guess it was probably 1985.
Yeah.
I remember my dad calling me into the room and being like, "Hey, look at this dude with this snake," and it was Jake the Snake Roberts putting the snake on somebody. And as a little kid, I was like, "Oh my god, that's crazy!"
Yeah.
And then I got up and went, left the room, went back to playing with whatever I was playing with. And then
Man.
he called me in there another time, like, "Hey, look at these guys." And it was the Road Warriors just demolishing somebody. I was like, "Whoa." And I sat there a little longer that time.
Yeah.
And eventually it hooked me in, man. And from like
Yeah.
1986 until about an hour ago,
Yeah.
I was just obsessed with wrestling from that. I read every
Man.
magazine, book I could find, watched every video I could put my hands on. Became a tape trader, and eventually, got in the business and all that. But
Man.
as much as I profess to hate it sometimes, I never will. I'll always love it, and
Oh man.
I don't always love what it's become, but
Yeah.
that's on all of us to some degree, and it's not like it's not fixable. And
Oh yeah, man. You ain't lying though, because I ain't gonna lie though. When you brought up a lot of guys you brought up give you a emotional roller coaster. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what and like it really got me as a kid. Like that's how I brought up Cena, but it was something about like oh man, like Kane. Like I was like Kane used to give me nightmares. Like I was afraid of Kane. And I don't mean to bring up like main guys like because some people probably think I'm a wrestling fanatic, but man, like people like Hardcore Holly, like I was fond of Hardcore Holly. My first wrestling memory was when Brock Lesnar and Hardcore Holly was beefing because Brock broke his neck on the power bomb.
oh yeah,
And
yeah, I
so
remember that.
and so so that was my first wrestling memory. So man, it's like a lot of people who used to give me an emotional roller coaster. Like like shoot, Boogeyman, Booker T, shoot, man, like Kurt Angle, man. Kurt Angle he's one of the people that's just like um I can't like he's all around. Like he can be so vicious and so disciplined in the ring, but like he is just like a comedian, like he's just
Yeah,
so funny, man. Like he is just like wrestling is it's such a beautiful sport, man. If people let it be beautiful, well, all the nonsense and the drama, man, like it's such a beautiful thing. Like like the whole show, like the whole show itself could be just so beautiful. And
there's so many layers to it. Like you said, a guy like Kurt Angle, who can get in the ring and be one of the most believable, athletic people in the
yeah,
world, and have great matches with guys like Shawn Michaels and
yeah,
Brock Lesnar, but then can go backstage and you know play a ukulele with a little cowboy hat with Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the baddest dudes in the world, and you
yeah,
laugh at it, but it don't mean you
yeah.
think any less of it or you don't. It's fun, and in one
Exactly. Yeah.
moment you're having fun, and the next moment you're belly to belly suplexing Shane McMahon through a plate glass window. But
Man.
that to me is the beauty of wrestling. It's not one thing; it's a million
Yeah.
different things. And
Yeah. And that's
as
what
far
people
as the
try to think
scary
about it.
part, it's funny you mentioned that. It made me remember like when I was a little kid. I think I was like 5 years old. My dad had bought me a wrestling magazine, and
Yeah.
it had a picture of Abdullah the Butcher on there. And that dude scared me to death. And like at night when I would go to bed, he was on the back cover of the magazine. I would have to flip it over and I'd put something else on top of it before I went to bed because I was like,
Oh man.
I don't want to see that, you know. And then years
Oh
later,
man.
I got to meet him and take a picture with him, and he signed a fork for me. And I was like, dude, you scared me to death when I was a small child. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one because
Nah,
Abby was a scary guy. And then you talk to him, he's got this high pitched voice like a cartoon character in real life. But he was
man.
something else. But it's funny because, you know, like a lot of people, when you talk about, I always like to ask that question. We finally got around to it.
Yeah,
You know, what's your earliest wrestling memory?
yeah,
And most people think it's going to be something like, oh, Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant, or, you know, Stone
yeah,
Cold, you know, in a monster truck, or, you know, Kurt Angle
yeah,
spraying the milk. But like with you, Brock Lesnar and Hardcore Holly. That's the thing that you
mm,
remember. And like me, it's
man.
Jake the Snake DDT and just a job guy and putting
Yeah,
the snake on him. Like it's
yeah, man.
funny the things that click with us and lock in our mind. It's not always the huge mega moments. It's
Yeah.
simple things, you know.
Oh yeah, that's how I can tell who the real fans are and who just you know what I'm saying, like real fans compared to like, oh yeah, I used to watch wrestling. Oh yeah, you just know about wrestling,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, so like I don't put it past nobody. You know, people have their moments like oh I love Jeff Hardy. Like oh yeah, you know Jeff Hardy just because he's just the dude who wear the armbands who coming out
Yeah.
putting his body to the wind. You know, but I don't put
Yeah, you
that
have these
past
people that
nobody.
dip in and out over the years. Like, yeah, I remember, and they'll name off, like you say, some big, you know, tentpole moment of something that happened 20 years ago, and then like, and then I remember seeing, and that was 20 years later or something, you know. But
Yeah, yeah, man. These fans nowadays, man, they something else, man. But I love them though. I love them. But some of these guys, like you said, the super fans or the marks per se, man, they make it hard. They make it hard for the business too, you know. So like a lot of people think they know, but a lot of people don't know the business, man. Like I'm only two. I'm not saying I know the business, you know. I'm just saying about what I would want as a fan, you know.
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing about pro wrestling is it's subjective. Like, there's no definitive answer of what's right,
Exactly.
what's wrong, what's good, what's bad.
Yeah.
Because if me, you, and 10 other people were on this screen right now, and you went around a circle and you said, "Hey, what's the greatest match of all time?"
Yeah.
Everyone would have a different answer, and no one would be wrong because it's what you think. I mean, some people think the greatest match they ever seen was, you know, John Cena versus The Rock, but then,
Yeah.
you know, the Dave Meltzer's of the world, oh, that was a 2 star, you know, blah blah blah. And then the
Yeah.
other one will be, oh, it was, you know, it was Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker at WrestleMania, or it
Yeah.
was, you know, some match Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes from Starrcade '85. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all subjective. There is no real right or wrong with wrestling,
Yeah.
and that's another great thing about it, you know,
Yeah.
because you can bring what you bring to the table, and there may be 100 people that don't like it, but there may be 200 that love it. Well,
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
right or who's wrong? You know, I mean, as long as there's somebody out there that's loving it, then,
Man.
you know, you're doing something right. So,
Hey man, you said something in. You said something in, man. Hey, I'm
so
like
man, I
200
appreciate
lovers.
you coming on here, man. We done talked an hour. It don't feel like it, but
Oh yeah, nah, thanks, nah, man.
I enjoy talking about, you know, wrestling, especially somebody that is a fan. You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
and so I wish you all the luck in the world. Like I said, I don't mean any of the things I say on these videos personally, and I'm sure, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
Yeah, we've made fun of the Rob Van Dam thing. We've said some things, but in the end, I've always said in every match I've talked all of years, like, this guy can work. Like, he's
Oh yeah,
just,
man.
you know, he's lumped into some other things that, you know, aren't so
Yeah.
great. But all you can do is the best you can do, and everything else will take care of itself. But
Yes, sir.
keep
Yes, sir.
doing what you're doing, man. And if I can ever be any help to you, never hesitate to reach out. I'd love to have you on again in the future. We'll talk some more wrestling. We'll catch up and see where you're at. And in the meantime, best of luck, and stay healthy, and
Yes,
keep at
sir.
it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
And
You say,
before we go, how can people follow you? How can people connect with you on social media and keep up with where Young Mama is going to be next?
oh yes, sir. You can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Dunn Deal. You know, you can follow me on Facebook at Stephan Dunn. I got a website also www.stephandunn.com to also I got a booking schedule on there so you can keep up to every Fridays or weekends to see where I'm located next, my next match. So.
And if a wrestling promoter or booker's watching this, is there an email they could reach out to you about getting a booking, or is it better to do it through social media?
You can reach me at either or, but I'll say that my email is Bran Kenner, BRAN Kenner, KENNER @hotmail.com. And yes, I know Hotmail is old, so don't get on me.
That's what I'm talking about right there. That's old school. That's old guys remember Hotmail.
Yeah.
All right, and if you didn't catch that, hit me up. I will get you in touch with Stephan, and we will get this man to your show. Thanks
Thank you.
again,
Thank you.
buddy. Have a good one.
Yes, thank you, sir.